Hello and welcome. This is entry two of my portfolio. I'm María-José Benito, fifth year student of English pedagogy. We'll talk about my teaching philosophy this time. First, why teaching? I chose teaching as my career path because I studied at school at a time where teachers weren't the ones that adapted to students, but students had to be the ones to adapt. The ones who failed to adapt simply couldn't learn and missed several opportunities later in life. So that experience really marked me and made me realize that the classroom dynamic needs to be different now. It is not about the teacher being the only one who knows everything, but also about making sure that every student has a way and that they feel that they can actually learn. Why do we teach? Teaching is done to create learning, and hopefully, this learning stays with the students for a long period of time. However, this learning doesn't refer only to disciplinary content and facts of information alone. The learning we're supposed to provide as teachers must also come tied to values, attitudes, responsibilities that each person must take on as they grow older and become functional, selfless adults. I think that if we only focus on the textbook and grammar exercises, we're not really preparing them for the real world and real life. So they need to learn how to treat others and to be responsible for their own actions and decisions. As I teach, I always make sure to take into account the attitudes that I'm showing to my students so they can have a good example of the adult that is trying to get them to grow as people and to learn. I will never disrespect them in any way, not only to ensure that they don't do the same to me, but also to teach them that that is the way that they must treat their peers later in life. Respect is something that has to be given first in order to be received, and I believe that as a teacher, I have to be the first one to show it. Regarding my discipline, and that's English, I do my best to teach using the natural method, providing students with English input so they can store it in their memory and then produce output as they gain the ability. However, I am not against using our mother tongue, which is Spanish, in order to create concepts that are clearer and analogies that actually stick in their minds, especially when the level needs it. I have to create proper scaffolding considering that students in a classroom never have the same level of achievement or grasp of the language. I know that if I only speak English all the time, some students may feel lost, anxious, and the idea is that everybody's on the same page before we move forward to the next, more challenging content. So I use Spanish as a bridge whenever it's necessary. Next, talking about methods, I try to follow the I do, we do, you do structure to create autonomy step by step in my students, while also making sure that nobody's left behind. In every class, a routine is followed so students can show their individual competence and then later not need the facilitator to communicate ideas, and that's me. Nevertheless, in early stages of teaching, sometimes that can be difficult to achieve. So we start little by little. This gradual process builds their confidence over time. They see me do it first, then they practice with a partner or a group, and eventually they can do it on their own. And that is the moment I look forward to the most because it shows that they are actually learning and that I'm making progress. They're making progress, and my job is being properly done. For beginning stages, for example, I do a lot of gamification so that students don't get frustrated if they don't understand or learn immediately. Working with games sparks their interest and gets them to engage with content that would otherwise be too dense or boring for them. That way, we can start with the little pieces and then they can start joining and create an actual sentence or discourse. My teaching thesis was a study on the relation between flashcard games and the affective filter affecting how students learn. And what I found was that games like the ones done with flashcards or any other type of dynamic that's more playful actually lowered student anxiety and they were more prone to speak or participate. And that gave them the chance to get better grades thanks to the interaction with the content. Games actually take the pressure off and let them, make mistakes in a safe environment. Lastly, evaluating is a different topic because it's a little unreliable to evaluate using only games. That's only for informal assessment. I make assessments that are as similar as possible to real tasks, giving me the chance to evaluate the different areas of language, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and so on. Games are focused on a much smaller feature of language, and they're a good entry point to start with something. But assessments involve more skills at once, so when they use English, they have to show actual competence and communicate. So in the end, my goal as a teacher is to see them grow, but not only in regarding their English level, but also as complete individuals that are autonomous and prepared for the world that comes after them. That's all. Thank you.